Excellent. Well, thanks very much for coming and together to have a discussion about GreenSCIES and heat networks as an aspect of smart local energy systems. So can I ask you first to introduce yourself and your role in the project?
Hi, I'm Graeme Maidment. I'm Professor of Heating and Cooling at London South Bank University, and I'm Director of GreenSCIES.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Catarina Marques. I'm a Senior Research Fellow at London South Bank University, working with Graeme. And in GreenSCIES, I was the project manager, but I was also involved in our replication projects in other locations outside London.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kristina Roszynski. I'm an architect at Cullinan Studio, and I've been involved in the GreenSCIES project. And I'm also involved in the GreenSCIES Centre of Excellence.
Graeme, do you want to tell us what GreenSCIES is about?
Yeah, thanks very much. It's well, it stands for an acronym, okay, and the acronym stands for Green, Smart, Community Integrated Energy Systems. Bit of a mouthful, but it involves bringing together mobility, so electric vehicles, heat and power, all in a smart local energy system, so providing those three things in a smart local energy systems. In GreenSCIES, what we've done is we've got something called a fifth generation heat network. So that's a network of pipes in the ground which is at ambient temperature. And because it's at ambient temperature, it means that we can take heat from different applications like a data center or a tube. We move that heat via the network in the ground to where it's needed. So someone's house or some big block of flats, we then amplify its temperature, raise its temperature with a heat pump to the temperature it can provide hot water and heating. And that's how we deliver the heat. But at the same time, we're able to use power as well. So we've got locally generated renewable electricity, and we've also got mobility, electric vehicles that are charged from the power or charged from the grid when there's renewable energy available. And the combination of bringing it all together makes it cost effective, so the capital cost is relatively low, and we're able to deliver good savings for the consumers, okay, and make it financially viable.
And I know that you mentioned where the heat comes from data centres and the London Underground. So this is waste heat, is it, that's being captured and then put to good use?
Yeah, absolutely, Simon. There's quite a lot of waste heat available in the UK. I think in London there's more waste heat than we use for heating homes, and it's not just from data centres or from the tube. It's from substations, wastewater treatment works, crematorium, supermarkets, cold stores. You know, it could be anywhere that there's heat generated. There's lots of it, and traditionally this heat is normally just rejected to outside, okay, and not recovered. In GreenSCIES, we're able to recover it and then reuse it, and by doing so, it makes the system much more economic because we're getting two benefits from effectively one system.
And the benefits are heating and cooling.
Heating and cooling, and effectively we're able to charge a data centre for the cooling which we deliver it to them, and then we take their heat and we then use that heat elsewhere and we charge for that as well. And by doing it, it makes economically viable, but at the same time it reduces the emissions, much more efficient.
So it becomes a kind of circular economy type idea.
Yeah, I always use the example of a bit of a buy one get one free. You got one system and you get two outputs, buy one get one free. I don't know if that makes sense.
If we come to you, Kristina, you were interested, I think, quite a lot in the community engagement aspects of the project, and the fact that well, to me at least, any smart local energy system needs to be developed with the community and for the community. So could you tell us a little bit about those aspects of GreenSCIES?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we always talked about sharing, which was the sort of concept of the heat being shared between buildings, which I think is really important in terms of the community, because we're talking about how to build sort of more resilient communities. So, I mean, during our project, we had COVID and we also had the war in Ukraine. So people were thinking about energy security in a way they hadn't done before. So I think in terms of community engagement, it was also, you know, not just about bringing communities together as groups of people. It's getting them to kind of think about how they used energy, having locally generated energy, so it's more secure, making that affordable and accessible for everyone. So I think the community was always kind of one of our kind of first sort of pillars really of the project, and we were working with 3 housing estates in Islington. So we had existing Islington residents that we were talking to about the project all the way through.
And was it new to those residents, this type of technology? Were they used to heat networks or heat pumps at all?
No, this was all, we try not to say new technology because it's all proven, existing technology, but the way that we were integrating it was a new way. So we would be kind of creating energy centres next to where the estates where people lived. So yeah, there were some new ideas to communicate to people, but it was much more about integration of existing technology.
Okay, and how did the residents take that? Were they keen to take up new ideas, or did you have to help them understand the technology at all?
I think that once we spent time with people explaining the technology, people were very keen, because I think at the time energy costs were rising. People were really worried about the cost of living, and also people were interested in air quality where they lived in the borough. Islington has poor air quality, so I think they could see lots of other co-benefits. So I think it's important to not just talk about the technology. It was also to kind of show people what the other benefits could be of being on this system, so that we talked about accessibility, affordability, and obviously saving carbon, and those were all kind of positive, so people did want to be part of the scheme.
Mm-hmm. And beyond just energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that's great about GreenSCIES, from having read the reports and looked at what's happening, is that although this started off as a detailed design project, it's actually going to happen, isn't it, in practice in Islington and potentially elsewhere. So Catarina, do you want to tell us a little bit more about what's happening in terms of actually delivering the idea into operation?
Yes. So basically, the project started as a feasibility, and then we moved into detailed design. And from the very beginning, we were very much focused on the end goal. We didn't just want to create a detailed design. We wanted the system to be constructed, and Islington Council was a partner in the project from the very beginning. So that made quite a big difference. So we designed the system, but right now Islington is looking at construction. So they are planning to construct by 2025. They are applying for funding from government to really build the network. So that is all progressing. So we're going to see it happening.
That's fantastic. And what about elsewhere in the country? So Graeme's already mentioned that the idea is of interest, not just in Islington. Are there other projects that are looking at the model that you've kind of developed through GreenSCIES?
So as part of GreenSCIES, we did actually in total probably 7 feasibility studies. One that is actually shaping up really nicely is in Barnsley. So the concept is, again, recovering waste heat from a local source and develop a heat network, and then add the renewable power and the electric vehicles. So in Barnsley, there is a lot of opportunity to recover heat from the local industry, really. So that's what we looked at. And that location is unique in the sense that it has abundant coal mines underneath Barnsley. And those mines filled with water over time, so they are a resource that can be used. So we can recover heat from the mine water, and we can store heat from the industry there and recover it in the winter when we need to supply the local area. So it's another exciting project. Is an example of applying the GreenSCIES concept in a very different location from London, and it has other opportunities, other challenges. I mean, one thing we looked at is adding a solar farm, a wind farm, which wouldn't be possible in London. I mean, you couldn't connect to a wind farm in the city, but it just has that. It's about looking at what are the local opportunities, how we can apply the concept, but in a very different location.
I'm really interested in this. It feels like the sorts of things you're tapping into in these locations are really important to the place. So the data centre as an employer in Islington, and the underground part of the local transport system, and in Yorkshire, you know, the heritage of the coal industry, for example. Like how do you see smart local energy as part of, I suppose, bigger placemaking? Do you see that as an important role for smart local energy?
No, absolutely. And I would say to Graeme and Kristina to pitch in on this one, but it's quite critical to identify what makes the location, what is special about that location and how you can bring it. I mean, London is quite special in you have high density, so that makes it definitely viable to have heat networks because you're going to supply a lot of customers. If you go to a more rural location, then you have less heat density, so it's going to be less economic. So it's how you bring what's these different enablers and challenges to come together to get a good solution. But
yeah, sort of building upon that, I think everyone is going to be impacted by climate change. So we've all got our own responsibility to minimise that, and to be able to sort of develop a local smart energy system with the community. I think it raises the profile of you know, energy and the importance of carbon, etc. So you know, some of the work which we're doing is working with schools, okay, and what a better age to start to change how the future generation is going to use these than to do that. And I think the other thing that's really important, and maybe we've lost it, maybe it's perhaps COVID related, but you know, the sense of community, encouraging a sense of community where people generate their own things, they work together and they achieve their own success, I think has been lost a little bit. So GreenSCIES enables that to happen, and the community we've spoken to really like that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add to that. I think the other thing we talk about on GreenSCIES is about civic pride, and a lot of the infrastructure that was built in the past, like by the Victorians, if you think about pumping stations, or even if you think about later tube stations, it was about celebrating sort of civic achievements through infrastructure. And so GreenSCIES was very much about that we were celebrating these energy centres. So you know, the architecture of them and their prominence as a kind of wayfinding, placemaking was really important, because you want communities to be proud of their energy infrastructure, and creates a sense of identity and place.
Isn't it great we're talking about civic pride when we're here to talk about energy systems? It's brilliant. Another area I just wanted to pick up was the Centre for Excellence as a kind of bigger element, I guess. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and what you want that to achieve for SLES across Britain, I guess? Yeah,
definitely. Well, the Centre of Excellence is the sort of legacy out of the GreenSCIES project. So it's, you know, partners who were on GreenSCIES coming together, and the mission is to accelerate the rollout of smart local energy systems. So, you know, we see that as a kind of major part of how we're going to decarbonise, particularly heating, but cooling as well. So, yeah, it's about kind of the future and accelerating that rollout.
Yeah, and to finish, and maybe pick up with yourself, Graeme, on skills. As somebody who works in the university, skills is really important, knowledge is really important. Do we have that for doing smart local energy, or is that an aspect of what we need to build up?
I think there's definitely a good foundation to work from in terms of skills base, but we need to do much more, and this is just in general in energy systems. We need to do much more in educating at different levels, from, you know, general public, as I said before, through to schools, through to technicians, through to professional designers. That the whole skills needs to be developed across that complete range if we're going to meet our future climate needs. But we also need to look at the supply chain as well, and it sort of works hand in hand. But you know, if we are going to introduce these sort of systems, are we going to have the sort of companies there to actually manufacture and install? And at the moment, we're probably lacking. So that's got to be a big focus for us in the future.
Grand. Okay, and we're almost out of time, but I'm going to finish with you, Catarina. Where would you like to see GreenSCIES, the concept, go next? What would you hope to have in 5 or 10 years' time, either in Islington or more broadly?
It's funny you asked that, because we normally introduce this postcard from the future, which is a GreenSCIES system in every city. So that would be a fantastic achievement if we can get there. And the fact that we've done all these feasibility studies in different areas, worked with different local authorities and generated interest is really a springboard to see that happen. So absolutely, that's the goal.
Brilliant, what a vision to have. Well, thank you, Kristina, Catarina, Graeme. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.